Girivaradhari Topi Jannavalabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braju Naranjana Yasodanandana Braju Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braju Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braju Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 21, text number 34. And this is a conversation between Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni. Nirīkṣatas tasya yayāv aśeṣa. Nirīkṣatas tasya yayāv aśeṣa. siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ. siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ. ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair. ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair. uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma. uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma. nirīkṣatas tasya yayāv aśeṣa. siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ. ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair. uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma nirīkṣatas tasya yayāv aśeṣa siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma nirīkṣatas tasya yayāv aśeṣa siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma. Patra-rathendra-pakṣair uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma nirīkṣatas yayāv aśeṣa siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma tasya yayāv aśeṣa siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma. Mataji's. Tasya yayāv aśeṣa siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair uccāritam stomam udīrṇa-sāma. Nirīkṣatas tasya yayāv aśeṣa siddheśvarābhiṣṭuta-siddha-mārgaḥ ākarṇayan patra-rathendra-pakṣair nirīkṣatas tasya. While he was looking on, yayau, he left, aśeṣa, all, siddha-īśvara, by liberated souls, abhiṣṭuta is praised, siddha-mārgaḥ, the way to the spiritual world, ākarṇayan, hearing, patra-ratha-indra, of Garuḍa, king of birds, pakṣaiḥ, by the wings, uccāritam, vibrated, stomam, hymns, udīrṇa-sāma, forming a sage stood looking on, the Lord left by the pathway leading to Vaikuṇṭha, a path extolled by all great liberated souls. The sage stood listening as the hymns forming the basis of the Sāma Veda were vibrated by the flapping wings of the Lord's carrier Garuḍa. In response, please. While the sage stood looking on, the Lord left by the pathway leading to Vaikuṇṭha, a path extolled by all great liberated souls. The sage stood listening as the hymns forming the basis of the Sāma Veda were vibrated. I'll do that one again. The sage stood listening as the hymns forming the basis of the Sāma Veda were vibrated by the flapping wings of the Lord's carrier Garuḍa. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In the Vedic literature it is stated that two wings of the transcendental bird Garuḍa, who carries the Lord everywhere, are two divisions of the Sāma Veda known as Brihat and Ratantara. Garuḍa works as the carrier of the Lord. Therefore he is considered the transcendental prince of all carriers. With his two wings, Garuḍa began to vibrate the Sāma Veda, which is chanted by great sages to pacify the Lord. The Lord is worshipped by Brahma, by Lord Śiva, by Garuḍa and other demigods with selected poems, and great sages worship him with the hymns of the Vedic literatures, such as the Upaniṣads and Sāma Veda. These Sāma Veda utterances are automatically heard by the devotee when another great devotee of the Lord, Garuḍa, flaps his wings. It is clearly stated here that the sage Karma began to look to the path by which the Lord was being carried to Vaikuṇṭha. It is thus confirmed that the Lord descends from his abode, Vaikuṇṭha, in the spiritual sky and is carried by Garuḍa. The path which leads to Vaikuṇṭha is not worshipped by the ordinary class of transcendentalists. Only those who are already liberated from material bondage can become devotees of the Lord. Those who are not liberated from material bondage cannot understand transcendental devotional service. In Bhagavad Gita it is clearly stated, Yatatam api siddhanam. There are many persons who are trying to attain perfection by striving for liberation. Those who are actually liberated are called Brahmabhuta or Siddha. Only the Siddhas, or persons liberated from material bondage, can become devotees. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service is already liberated from the influences of the modes of material nature. Here it is also confirmed that the path of devotional service is worshipped by liberated persons, not the conditioned souls. The conditioned soul cannot understand the devotional service of the Lord. Kadama Muni was a liberated soul who saw the Supreme Lord in person, face to face. There is no doubt that he was liberated, and thus he could see Garuḍa carrying the Lord on the way to Vaikuṇṭha, and hear the flapping of his wings, vibrating the sound of Hare Krishna, the essence of the Sāma Veda. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastatya Deshatarine. So here it's instructing that the wings of the Vedas are the way to the spiritual world. And so, Garuḍa is always carrying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, on his shoulders and vibrating this transcendental sound. So it is very instructive that in Bhagavad Gita, in Gita Mahatmya, in verse 3, 4 and 5, it actually mentions that, there are two things, the Ganges and there's the Bhagavad Gita. But Ganges come from the feet of the Lord. There's one nice verse actually, Marganti yette mukhapadma naidais chandasa parne rishayo vivikte yashyangamarshoda surit saraya padam patam tirtha pada prapana. He says that the lotus feet of the Lord are the shelter of all holy places of pilgrimage. So, in India, everybody goes to places of pilgrimage. And but the clear-minded souls, those who their hearts becoming purified, always take shelter of the lotus face of the Lord by hearing the Vedic literatures. So Prabhupada writes in the Gita Mahatmya as a purport, it says that there's no difference between the Lord's lotus. There's 8 parts to the Lord, 8 lotus limbs, and one is the feet and one is the face. And so it says there's no difference between the feet of the Lord and the face of the Lord. He says, but from an impartial point of view, he says the face is more important. And he says, from the feet are coming the Ganges, and from the mouth is coming the Bhagavad Gita. And so Prabhupada said, I remember listening to one lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and he actually was talking to some guests, and he says, I only know Bhagavad Gita. He was arguing with some impersonalists actually, and he kept saying this, I only know Bhagavad Gita and I can defeat anybody. Because everything's in there. The Gita is compact, and we expand on how to put the Gita into practice through Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Lord Chaitanya comes and he shows us how to expand on that in relationships between devotees once we've achieved perfection. But it all stems from this root cause of Bhagavad Gita. So it also mentions in that purport that the literatures, or the Vedic literature, are actually, there's nothing so beautiful as the lotus, but the most beautiful thing is the Vedas. And so the Vedas, the wings of the Vedas, who are the wings of the Vedas? Anybody? Who are the wings of the Vedas? It's us. We are the wings of the Vedas, right? The wings carry the Vedas. And everywhere Garuḍa goes, they're hearing the Maha mantra. So everybody's becoming purified. So what do we carry? We carry the Vedic literatures, and Prabhupada said this is the most important point in our devotional service, in this movement. He says by carrying these transcendental literatures to different parts of the world, then we are actually the wings which carry the Vedas, in particular Bhagavad Gita. And so this is our first consideration in devotional life. Prabhupada said we should come to India, especially to the Mayapur festival. But in general, we should come to India to get fired up. We take association of so many devotees, we get association of the holy Dham, and we feel the difference, become lifted. And what do we do then? Anybody know? What do we do? We spent, some time in the holy Dham. What do we do then? We go travelling around India, right? Chanting the holy name for 6 months. Is that right? Is that what Prabhupada said? No, he didn't. What did he do? No, we come, we balance it, we come, we get charged up, we go back to where the holy name is almost non-existent. We go back to our own particular situation, in full of enthusiasm for giving the holy name. This is this movement, giving and take. In Next of Instruction, Prabhupada talks about this. He talks about, we have a movement of give and take. Dadadi pratigrinati, bhunkti prakritigan. We give and take in that people give donations and we give them books, or we give them transcendental knowledge. This is a reciprocation. And this is what this movement's meant for. This material world is a tricky place. Anything can happen, right? And it does. Have you noticed? Sometimes, out of nowhere there's some problem. And so everything's like on a tottering platform. And this is why Prabhupada said that, if we put the books out there, then whatever happens, the books will remain. And Krishna consciousness will remain in society. There was one, I used to travel in Russia, and I don't go there so much now, but a bit difficult at the moment. But one devotee was telling me they were distributing books, and they went to one place really out there in Siberia. Not many people go there, and it's built on a swamp. Can you believe? Siberia, a lot of it's just a swamp, and so they built this railway out of the swamp. They've seen truckloads of gravel and so many things. So we went for like hundreds of miles over this swamp. So it looks like the Carboniferous age. Has anybody seen? You learn at school about the Carboniferous age, right? Does anybody know what the Carboniferous age is? Nobody. It's when the dinosaurs were around, and there were swamps, and all these trees were falling into the swamps, and then they got compact, and then they were. So it's a time when the world was just like underway, and so this group went there, and when they were nobody goes there with books, but they were distributing books, and they came across this person. One person said, "Oh, I've got that book. You get that in Calcutta, don't you? It's one of the regular, excuses for not taking another book." He said, "Oh, I've got that one." I said, "What do you mean you've got that one? Nobody's ever been here before." He said, "Oh, there is." I said, "Where did you get it from?" And they pointed him to this person, and this person, he was a businessman. So they found out his address eventually, and he received a book when he visited Moscow, one of the big towns, and came back, read the book, and started chanting, offering prasadam. He took the whole process up, and then he ordered a set of books from the book trust, which came up with this swamp, and landed in this particular town, and they were distributing books everywhere. And the devotees, they were amazed. And so this is, how this movement is saved through books. We can't save concrete, we can't save, it's the age of, in the 12th canto it talks about the rulers will become what? Dacoits. They make their own rules. And so we don't know what's going to happen with our with anything, but we can be one thing can be sure: transcendental knowledge through literatures will carry on. And so that's the wings of the Vedas. And so the Ganges is always there, but the wings of the Vedas are more important. This is the point that's being made here. So another form of transcendental sounds besides literature is the Maha Mantra. Prabhupada said, Sankirtan is important, but Brihat Mridanga is more important. But now we'll talk about the Sankirtan, because when you put the two together, it's really effective. Does anybody distribute books that way? With Harinam and book distribution. Yeah, it's very effective. And so the Harinam is like a foundation which makes everything fertile, and then we can actually distribute books. But that's not the thing I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the holy name a little bit, the power of the holy name. This is also the wings of the Vedas. If you remember, we read in that purport how Garuḍa was flying and the Hare Krishna mantra was coming from his wings. And so, Namno hi yavati shakti papam niharane hare tavat kartam nashaknoti patakam pataki naraha. So what does that mean? That means that just by chanting the holy name of the Lord once, one can be freed from more sins than is able to commit. That's the power of the holy name. But then it qualifies it. And Queen Kunti is praying like that. Janmaishvarya-shrūta-shribir edamana manamunam nirvarhat abhidartam vai twamakinchina gochara. He said to chant the holy name properly, we have to be a kinchina gochara, free from any material attachments. He says, so Janma, birth in a good family. Anybody born in a good family? Put your hand up. Nobody. Aishvarya. We got any wealthy people here today? We're doing well. Aishvarya. Shruta. Any learned people? Any learned devotees? Shribir. Any beautiful or handsome? So we're all qualified, right? Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribir. It says these things, and everybody in England we have the saying a pauper's like a person who's on the street, is proud of his penny. So we all, the natural symptoms of a conditioned soul is pride. And so this pride has to be removed before we can chant the holy name properly. And it's difficult. But Krishna can actually assist. Would everybody like to be assisted by Krishna? Put your hands up. Are you sure? So, there's one verse in the Bhagavatam. Yashyaham anugrinami harishetad janam shanai tato gyanam tatantyasya svajana dukha dukitam. Krishna says, when I especially favour somebody, and everybody wants to be favoured by Krishna, I gladly take away all his wealth. And he leaves that person without anything. And then he's no shelter, he's nowhere to go. His wife and friends and all his associates leave him. And then he can fully surrender to Krishna. So is everybody ready? But actually we can do it's a much more simpler way. Krishna says that, we can keep all these things. We just don't have to be attached to them, that's all. We have to use them in his service. So whenever we're actually engaging things in Krishna's service, then it's actually useful and it's purifying. So this is the power of the holy name, that, it's the beginning of devotional service. Devotional service beginning with the chanting of the holy name is the ultimate religious principle in human society. And Lord Chaitanya was asked by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, what's the most important process of devotional service? And Lord Chaitanya immediately said, chanting the holy name. It's the barometer of our spiritual life. If we just focus on trying to perfect that, then everything else will fall into place. So we have two things. We have the purifying process, the holy name, and we have the intellect is nourished by Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita. So everything's there. This is the wings of the Vedas. Okay, so we'll go on to there's a few points here, but there's 2 points I particularly focused on, and that's the wings of the Vedas and liberation. So in the purport, Prabhupada said anybody who's engaged in devotional service are liberated. Does everybody feel liberated? So Prabhupada's wrong, right? So what's the problem? Why aren't we feeling liberated? Brahma bhuta prasanatma, na sochite na kanchite. We're actually, ecstatic at every moment, and there's no na kanchite, there's no lamentation. Does anybody lament sometimes? So, actually Prabhupada qualified this. He said, when we follow the process, we're actually considered to be on the transcendental platform. We're practicing devotional service, but the heart's not pure, not purified. But Prabhupada said, he was asked by one person, he said, can I be a pure devotee? And he said, why not? He says, to the degree you follow my instructions, to that degree you're a pure devotee. Satam pasangam mamaviri samvido bhajantirit-kana rasayanakata tadyoshina apavavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhakti anu kramishyati. So this is indicating by Kapila Muni in 3 chapters further on, in chapter 25, 4 chapters further on. He's preaching to Kapila Muni is preaching to Devahuti. He says, in the association of pure devotees. Prabhupada was also asked how many pure devotees we've got in the movement. I'm sure everybody's heard this. And he asked his secretary, how many devotees are there in the movement? He said, probably about, 5,000. He said, we've got 5,000 pure devotees. So, he says, in the association of pure devotees, topics about the Supreme Personality of God are very satisfying to the heart and pleasing to the ear. And by hearing this regularly, one becomes advanced on the path of devotional service. One becomes freed. This is liberation. Freed. And then real devotional service. That's what it's saying in this purport. We cannot practice devotional service until we're freed from the clutches of Maya. Then real devotional service begins. So what is real devotional service? Real devotional service means spontaneous devotional service. Raga Bhakti. And so this is by Prabhupada said, by the slow process of hearing and chanting, one comes to this platform of Raga Bhakti. And then one can, it stems from the heart. It's not coming from rules and regulations. It's not coming from having to be inspired by somebody. We just spontaneously want to serve Krishna with body, mind and words. Iha yasya harer dasya. Kamnasa manasagila nikilash avastasu jivan mukta sayutaje. One who's fully engaged with body, mind and words in Krishna's service is actually liberated, even though in the material world. And so many devotees are on that platform. We're engaged, full time. It may not seem like that, but everything is centered around trying to serve Krishna. And so we're one step away from real liberation. What's real liberation? Ye anye revindaksha vimukta maninas. The Lord Brahma was asked by the demigods, what about people who don't practice devotional service and consider themselves liberated? He says they're fooling themselves. It's vimukta manina. What's vimukta manina? Vimukta means liberation, manina means in the mind. It's a mental exercise. We negate everything and we keep the mind, We've got to keep the mind fixed and then we're liberated. As soon as the mind deviates, we're back in material life. Is that liberation? That's painful, isn't it? So real liberation is, he says that they fall down from that situation because they've no regard for the Lord's lotus feet. Atapite deva padam dvaya prasanat lasen ogrihita evi janani tatvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya ekope chiramba chinvam. Same thing is being mentioned here, is that if we speculate to understand, we'll never be able to understand Krishna. But if we follow this hearing process, very easily we'll understand. And it's not easy to understand. It's not easy to hear. It's not easy to have a taste for hearing. To have a real taste for hearing means that we'll hear from anybody about Krishna. Whatever they have to say, we want to know. I remember I'll not mention his name, but there's one devotee from India, and he was, I don't know his spiritual master, but he was a very close associate of Garuḍa Maharaj. And he was head of a Sanskrit college. He was a brahmachari from birth, and he was in his 70s. But he wore white. He was so humble, He was the head of a Sanskrit college most of his life, and so he'd been initiated. He was from a Vaishnava family. So would you say he was qualified? Does anybody have those qualifications? It's not easy. And when it didn't matter who was giving class, I had the good fortune to pick him up from where he was staying and bring him to the manor. And when he came to class, he used to give class sometime, and but he used to like to listen. And when he was hearing class, he was sat there, and he was leaning forward, and he never took his eyes off the speaker. And when he gave class, after the class he'd go, Prabhu, please give a question. That's some Krishna Katha. So this is a real taste. We just want to hear about Krishna all the time. We may not be on that platform, but it'll come. Yes, so this is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 2nd chapter. The whole process is mentioned in maybe 6 or 7 verses. It mentions that the taste for hearing comes from serving devotees, from serving Srila Prabhupada especially. Shushrusha Shradhanasya. Vasudeva Katarushi Syam Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevana. And by that service to those who are completely free from vice, pure in heart, and remember if we follow Srila Prabhupada, we're acting as that person, then one gains a taste for hearing. And if we're serious about hearing, it says then Krishna within the heart starts to purify. The biggest thing in this world is this attraction to the opposite sex. It's very difficult to give up. He says, but if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, that's enough. If we hear very, very seriously, he says everything will be purified away and we will become peaceful. No more attraction. So this is difficult for even great sages. And Prabhupada mentions that point. And then, Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu, by regular hearing, almost everything's cleared away from the heart. But we have a material body. So there'll always be interference. While ever we have a material mind and body, or a material body, we'll be affected by the material energy. So we're always, susceptible. Then the lower modes of nature are gradually diminished, and mode of goodness prevails. And then when that is, by the process of devotional service, we're elevated through the mode of goodness just by serving Krishna without any personal desire. And then devotional service becomes enlivening. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. It's Evam Prasanna Manaso. The mind becomes surcharged with bliss. Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana Mukta Sangasya Jayate. Then Mukta Sangasya, we actually become liberated. And that's in the stage when the heart is completely purified. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis. Not in the heart is cut. Specifically, it's not of sex life. Pumsam striya maithunadi bhavam etam. This is the basic principle of material existence. This tendency to want to take the place of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so we see that when somebody gets married, in the West, the bride wears, even in the East, the bride wears an immaculate, gown, best jewelry, makeup. It's very, very attractive. And in India, the bridegroom, he wears a turban, silk turban, the best outfit, and they come together. They just look like Radha and Krishna. Yeah? They're just mimicking Radha and Krishna. And they have one day where they can mimic Radha and Krishna. Then the rest of the time, it's not the same. This is when you really have to work. And then you realize, this is an ashram. This is a real ashram. We really have to control the senses. We really have to be detached. It's not what I thought it was going to be. This is a trick of Maya. The heart's attracted. And when that happens, we have to chant this holy name very, very seriously. We have to hear very, very seriously. Then we can actually withstand this attraction of Maya. Otherwise, it's just waiting for us. So I'll stop there. We had the wings of the Vedas, and we had the liberation. That real liberation is devotional service. I was going to talk about. Anyway, well, it's 5 to 9, so we can leave it on for any feedback or questions, if anybody has any.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful class. You quoted a verse, Maharaj, Namno yasyavati sakti papani harne hare tavat kartum na saknoti patakah pataki jana. This verse, but like this verse says that even one Krishna Nam can liberate you from all the sinful reactions. Even one Krishna Nam. And still we see that devotees who are chanting 16 rounds, they are suffering due to different causes. So is that not reactions or sinful reactions?
A reaction of what? Yeah. Well, we have to understand that for my part, I'm a sadhaka. I'm practicing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. This is called sadhaka. I'm not actually a raga bhakta. We have some taste, but we're not fully attracted. So therefore, the reason we're practicing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is because we have so many attachments in the heart. And so even though we are trying to chant the holy name, still we're not chanting purely. It takes and this is our work, to chant the holy name properly. If we can chant the holy name properly, then we're actually going to make a lot of progress very quickly in devotional service. So when we say Namno Hi, it's talking about pure chanting. We're free from any material attachments. We're calling out to Krishna to engage in his service and take shelter. We're fully dependent on Krishna. We're chanting like a baby crying for his mother. And if we're on that platform, then there's nothing going to stop. The material world has nothing to come. We're connected. But wherever we have some attraction here, when we chant, it's not the pure holy name. And therefore, there will be some residual attraction still in the heart, which sometimes manifests, sometimes doesn't. And so, one of the things in devotional service, the first instruction of the Bhagavad Gita is to tolerate. We have to tolerate. And that's why Prabhupada said, if we're able to tolerate this itch, then we can remain in the renounced ashram. If not, we have to regulate it, and that's the married ashram. But in all cases, it means toleration. We tolerate one way or we tolerate the other. It's just different types of toleration. We're tolerating until we get the taste. Vishaya vinivardhante, niharashidenam, raso varjam, rasopyasya. Param drishva, this is param drishva, the higher vision, the higher taste. Raso varjam, this is the higher taste. And so that's a real saving grace when we start to get a real taste in devotional service. Until we get that higher taste, we'll be still attracted to a lower taste. So we have to keep association of devotees. They will help us. They will, keep us propped up even though we're actually stumbling. Jad Bharat didn't do that. We hear the story in Bhagavatam. He became attracted to a deer, a little baby deer, due to not having sufficient association. If it had been in the association of devotees, they would have told him, what are you doing? Even a young bhakta would have been able to tell him, Bharat Prabhu, you're in Maya. But he didn't have that, and so he just got carried away by the mind. So association is a beginning, it's so important in devotional service. It's the beginning of devotional service, and it's the support in devotional service ongoing. We won't get that association anywhere else. Okay, anything else?
Thank you. I have a small question. Association, I found sometimes when we go for association, people also fear that we will get aparadh.
People what?
I mean, devotees sometimes think we are getting aparadh. So that feeling, due to that, others are getting more entangled. So how we should feel? How Prabhupada not thought anything and given the association, so mercy, so kindful. How devotee can kind towards other devotee associates. So we are just thinking it will be aparadh, so I will not go and ask, or I will not speak more. So that also in practically happening. So I might be wrong, but I was just thinking. So
you've got a very strong accent, so I'll try and.
Maharaj, he's saying that while association, you spoke about association. In association also we fear committing offense. So we keep ourselves little back from association because we may commit offense. So how do we do it like Prabhupada did it? He gave his association without committing any offense or accepting any offense like that.
Well, we have to follow Vaishnava etiquette. Vaishnava etiquette means we follow the rules and regulations, and so it limits the offences. Without that, we'll just act like a materialist. So we have to follow the etiquette in devotional service. And but still, there's a tendency due to our conditioned nature to act improperly. And so we should be careful, we have to be conscientious. We have to really, in Bhagavad Gita it said we should strenuously try to give up desire and anger. As soon as we learn in the process of using things in Krishna's service, but we're still attached. And it's that attachment to things which brings up, anger or disagreement, where we're likely to commit offence. And so, we're associating in the beginning on the Bhakti course if we join the temple. And so, everybody, it's a little bit rough on the Bhakti course because everybody's hasn't quite learned the Vaishnava etiquette, or are not really strong enough to follow it properly. So we shouldn't be too worried about that, But gradually, if we want to, we have to learn to associate with different classes of devotees, and so therefore we have limited association with, if we're in that condition, our association with really advanced devotees is not, we shouldn't associate too much, because we cannot, function properly. Prabhupada's servants, they serve Prabhupada, but it's not easy to do that without offending. We often think, if I could serve Prabhupada, I'd be a pure devotee, but we wouldn't be able to do it. So we take association of seniors and give them respect, ask suitable questions and get the benefit. And juniors, we try to be merciful. So it's a whole process, and we will actually make mistakes, but if we realise it, we just have to apologise. That's all. Devotees accept apologies. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi.